The Girl Who Dreamed Beyond the Stars, the beginning of a new chapter. At just 21, Alina was a vision of grace and strength. She was stunning. A former model and accomplished sprinter in her small third world hometown. Her sculpted figure and sharp intellect often set her apart, but not always in the way she hoped. Alina had only up to a ninth grade education, but what she lacked in formal schooling, she more than made up for in street smarts. Her quick thinking and resourcefulness had been honed during a tumultuous childhood that left her no choice but to grow up fast. Her father, a mechanic, had been the backbone of their small family until he fell ill. Cancer in his lungs took him suddenly, leaving Alina's mother heartbroken and struggling to cope. The loss weighed heavily on her mother, who, despite her best efforts, could not recover from the pain. She often told Alina, "Hold your head up always and never depend on anyone to make you happy." Alina wished her mother had taken her own advice. Unable to bear the grief any longer, her mother passed away from what Alina could only describe as a broken heart. Left alone, Alina was placed in an orphanage. It was there, in the crowded, chaotic halls of the orphanage, that Alina learned to be street smart. She quickly realized that survival required resilience and ingenuity. While the other children played games or cried for their lost families, Alina observed, adapted, and grew stronger. Her mother's words stayed with her, a guiding light in her darkest moments. Never let the world tell you who you are. You decide who you will be. When Alina moved to England, she left behind the judgment and limitations of her old life, or so she thought. But the transition wasn't easy. She took a cleaning job at a modest hotel, and though the work was grueling, she approached it with the same discipline that had driven her athletic success. Despite her best efforts, jealousy followed her here too. Her colleagues resented her beauty, intelligence, and unyielding resolve, whispering in hushed tones and casting sidelong glances as she scrubbed floors and made beds with the precision of a seasoned professional. Alina often found solace in the quiet moments after her shifts, standing on the balcony of her tiny apartment and gazing at the stars. They reminded her of the dreams she'd carried with her across the ocean. She was determined to build a better life, one that couldn't be tarnished by envy or prejudice. She just didn't know how yet. The Gentleman in the Corner. It was during this turbulent time that Alina met Liam, a regular guest at the hotel. A successful architect in his mid-30s, Liam was charming, thoughtful, and captivated by Alina's intellect and grace. Unlike others, he saw past her physical beauty, drawn instead to the spark of ambition in her eyes and the quiet strength in her demeanor. He often lingered in the hotel lounge after business meetings, engaging Alina in conversations about books, travel, and philosophy. "What's your favorite place in the world?" he asked one evening, leaning against the bar as Alina cleaned nearby. She paused, considering the question. "I haven't been there yet," she replied with a shy smile. "But I imagine it's somewhere with open skies and endless possibilities." Liam's interest in her only grew with each passing interaction. He admired her depth, her curiosity, and the way she carried herself with quiet dignity despite the hardships she faced. Their connection deepened over time, and soon they began seeing each other outside the confines of the hotel. What Alina didn't know, however, was that Liam had a secret, a lingering entanglement with his ex-wife Myrtle. Though Liam assured Alina that his relationship with Myrtle was over, he had not entirely severed ties. He still saw her occasionally, indulging her attempts to rekindle their marriage. Liam told himself it was harmless, a complicated but fading chapter of his life. However, Myrtle didn't see it that way. A love that blossomed amid deception. When Liam finally chose to be fully honest with himself and Alina, he cut ties with Myrtle and focused on building a life with Alina. At first, the revelation of his previous duplicity tested their relationship. Alina was hurt, her trust shaken, but she appreciated Liam's honesty and his willingness to change. Together, they worked through the challenges, and their bond grew stronger. "I never wanted to hurt you," Liam confessed one evening as they sat on the balcony of Alina's apartment, the city lights twinkling below. "You deserve so much more than I've given you." What I deserve is honesty, Alina replied, her voice steady. And if you can promise me that, we can move forward. Liam kept his promise. Their relationship flourished, and Alina felt a sense of security and belonging she hadn't known before. Together, they began to create a life filled with love, laughter, and ambition. But Myrtle wasn't willing to let. Myrtle's obsession turns dangerous. At first, Myrtle's actions were subtle. Anonymous phone calls late at night, cryptic emails accusing Alina of being a homewrecker. Alina dismissed these incidents, not wanting to let fear disrupt her happiness. But as Liam and Alina's relationship grew more serious, Myrtle's behavior escalated. One evening, as Alina jogged through the park near their home, a car came speeding toward her. She barely leapt out of the way in time, the vehicle skidding off the path and crashing into a tree. Shaken but unharmed, Alina reported the incident to the police. Weeks later, evidence surfaced tying the vehicle to Myrtle. It was a chilling revelation. Myrtle had tried to kill her. The ordeal didn't end there. One night, a vigilant neighbor spotted Myrtle in the back garden of Liam and Alina's home, pouring gasoline on the shed. When confronted, she fled, but not before the neighbor alerted the authorities. Myrtle was arrested for attempted arson, but her obsession only deepened. Adding to the chaos, Myrtle stole the family dog, Max, and sold him on the black market. When confronted, she eventually confessed, laughing as if it were a game. The betrayal devastated the family, leaving them shaken but determined to move forward together. Liam's guilt and redemption. Throughout this chaos, Liam struggled with his own guilt. He admitted to Alina that when they first met, he had still been seeing Myrtle, though he hadn't realized the depth of her instability. "I never wanted to hurt you," he told Alina one night, his voice heavy with regret. Alina's trust in Liam was shaken, but her love for him was unwavering. She demanded honesty and accountability, and Liam promised to do whatever it took to rebuild her trust. Over time, his actions matched his words. He became Alina's fiercest protector, standing by her side as they navigated the challenges posed by Myrtle's obsession. Illness and struggles. When Alina turned 28, she fell ill. A routine doctor's visit revealed that she had cervical cancer. The diagnosis was devastating, but Alina faced it with the same resilience that had carried her through her many hardships. As she began treatment, another blow struck their family. Liam lost his job and was forced to file for bankruptcy. The weight of these struggles became too much for Liam, and he turned to alcohol as a means of escape. His drinking spiraled out of control, and he began to neglect his responsibilities at home. Alina tried to support him, but Liam refused to seek help or make changes. For 3 long years, she bore the burden of his alcoholism while battling her own illness. Eventually, she realized she could no longer endure the situation. Heartbroken but determined, Alina decided to leave and live on her own. It was a painful decision, but she knew she couldn't save someone who didn't want to save himself. A new connection. During this time, Alina met Pierre Dupré, a charismatic French businessman who owned a successful law firm and a Harvard graduate. With his tanned skin, shining black hair, and piercing hazel eyes, Pierre was the picture of perfection. His chiseled physique and manicured appearance made Alina's heart race. From the moment they met, she found herself drawn to him in a way she hadn't felt before. His presence made her shiver, forgetful and clumsy, lost in his world. Pierre's admiration for Alina went beyond surface-level attraction. It was as if he had recognized the quiet strength and undeniable beauty that radiated from her, the qualities that others often overlooked. He was drawn to her, and his pursuit was not just gentle, it was persistent and captivating. Every gesture was designed to make her feel adored, to make her realize that she was worth every extravagant effort. He wined and dined her in the most luxurious settings, leaving no detail to chance. But it wasn't just the fine dining or the grand gestures that caught Alina's attention. It was the way Pierre made her feel. His charm was relentless, but in a way that made her feel like the most important woman in the world. Pierre had a way of looking at her that made her feel seen, truly seen, for everything she was. Her strengths, her vulnerabilities, her quirks. He had the rare ability to draw her into his world with ease. And as he did, Alina found herself swept away in the opulence that surrounded them. The trips to exotic locales, the private jet flights, and the evenings in candlelit restaurants. These things had become a part of their shared experience. But it was the way Pierre made her feel like the center of his universe that truly intoxicated her. One particular day stood out more than the others: a lunch on Pierre's private vineyard in France. The rolling hills of the vineyard stretched out before them, the lush grapevines swaying gently in the breeze. The air was fragrant with the scent of fresh grapes and the promise of a perfect afternoon. They dined al fresco, enjoying a meal crafted from the finest ingredients, the conversation flowing as effortlessly as the wine. The intimacy of the setting, the beauty of the landscape, and the warmth of the sun seemed to create the perfect moment. But what made it unforgettable was the way the passion between them erupted in the most spontaneous, primal way. As they wandered further into the vineyard, away from the world, it was as though the universe had conspired to bring them together in that moment. The connection they shared was undeniable, electric, raw, and unrestrained. In the solitude of the vineyard, surrounded by nothing but the land, the sky, and each other, they made love under the open sky, the world fading away. In that moment, Alina felt an intensity she had never known before. With Pierre, it was as though time stood still. He held her as if she were the only thing that mattered, his touch making her feel both cherished and wild. Their love was uninhibited, a physical manifestation of the deep emotional bond they had built. It wasn't just about passion, it was about being completely and utterly present with each other. For Alina, this new love with Pierre was exhilarating, and yet it carried with it a weight of complexity. While she reveled in the romance, the luxury, and the intensity, there was still a part of her that was torn between the love she had once shared with Liam and the undeniable connection she now felt with Pierre. Both men made her feel seen in different ways, but Pierre's world was one that offered a kind of indulgence and escape that was hard to resist. As they stood together, hand in hand, surrounded by the vines and the open sky, Alina's heart was a mixture of longing and uncertainty. The man who had given her this experience, this intoxicating sense of being cherished, had opened a door to a new chapter in her life. Yet, despite the passion and the romance, she couldn't shake the memories of what she had shared with Liam. She had been torn before, but now it seemed as if the choice between her past and present was only growing more difficult with each passing day. Despite her growing feelings for Pierre, Alina couldn't ignore the love she still felt for Liam. She struggled with the guilt of moving on while Liam remained lost in his own despair. How could she help him if he didn't want to be helped? Liam's vigilance. Though Alina and Liam were no longer together, Liam's presence in her life still lingered, as if their bond had never fully unraveled. He wasn't actively trying to win her back, but he couldn't help but keep an eye on her. He noticed the subtle changes in her demeanor. The way her eyes seemed a little brighter, her laughter more frequent. There were also the outward signs of transformation: a new wardrobe, her hair styled differently, a lighter step in her walk. All these shifts made Liam wonder about the new man in Alina's life, the one who seemed to have brought this change into her. Liam had always known Alina as someone who was strong and independent, but something in her had softened over time, and it wasn't just the passing of years. He remembered the passion they once shared, the adventures they had embarked on together, and the quiet moments that had meant just as much. They had been each other's anchor for so long. The thought that someone else had taken his place stirred a mix of emotions in him: curiosity, jealousy, even a sense of regret. Alina, on the other hand, felt a quiet tug of conflict every time she sensed Liam's lingering gaze from afar. Though their breakup had been amicable, it didn't erase the history they had created together. Her heart had been broken when they parted ways, yet there was a part of her that had never fully let go of him. The love they shared had been a defining chapter of her life, and the comfort of their connection was a constant echo in her mind. But life, as it often does, had presented her with another opportunity in the form of someone new, someone who made her feel alive in ways she hadn't in years. This new man, with his charm and ease, reminded her of the joy and excitement she thought she had lost. He didn't come with the weight of old memories. He brought with him a sense of possibility, of starting fresh. Still, Alina couldn't deny that Liam's place in her heart was irreplaceable. Even if their love had faded, it had shaped her in ways that no one else could. Yet here she was, torn between the past and the present, between the man who knew her deeply and the man who had awakened something within her that she thought was long gone. As Liam continued to watch from the sidelines, Alina wrestled with her emotions, unsure of where her heart truly belonged. Would she return to the man who once held her world, or could she embrace the new love that had given her a second chance at happiness? It was a question that gnawed at her, but one that only time and introspection would answer.